Have you ever felt like there's a part of you you're afraid to meet? A version of yourself that whispers in the dark when no one's watching, telling truths you'd rather not hear? Most people fear their inner darkness, not because it's evil, but because it's honest. Brutally, beautifully honest. And we're not taught how to face that honesty without judgment. If you've ever pushed away your anger, swallowed your sadness, or smiled when your insides were screaming, this video is for you. Because the parts you hide may be the keys to your healing. By the end of this journey, you'll not only understand your shadow, you might just learn how to embrace it and discover the hidden strength it holds. Let me tell you a story. When I was 11, I broke a pencil in class. Not on purpose, just out of frustration. My teacher called me ungrateful, and I cried. Not because of what she said, but because part of me believed she was right. That day, I started burying my anger. I thought it made me bad. It took me years to realize anger wasn't the enemy. It was a messenger, one I'd silenced for too long. If any part of this story feels familiar, if you've ever shamed yourself for feeling too much or not enough, you're not alone, and you're not broken. Let's walk together into the dark and find the light that's been waiting there all along. If you've ever felt this way, comment "I've been there," like the video, and subscribe if you're ready to go deeper with me. We all wear masks, not the kind you can touch or remove, but invisible ones, crafted from smiles, small talk, and "I'm fine." From the moment we step into the world, we learn to hide, to soften our rough edges, to edit our truth. We become performers in the theater of acceptance, trying to be liked, loved, or at the very least, tolerated. But have you ever paused and asked yourself, who am I without the mask? Most people don't, because what's underneath feels risky, vulnerable, maybe even unlovable. It starts early. Maybe you were the good kid, the one who never caused trouble. Maybe you learned that being quiet got you praised, while being emotional got you punished. So you tucked away the tears, the temper, the wildness. Years pass, and those hidden parts, they don't disappear. They wait. They wait behind your smile when you say yes but mean no. They surface when you're alone, scrolling through the silence. They scream from your dreams, or that tightness in your chest you can't explain. We call this shadow, but really it's just truth we didn't know how to carry. And the longer we wear the mask, the more we forget who's behind it. The tragedy isn't that we hide. It's that we start to believe the mask is all we are. Think about it. When was the last time you said something you didn't believe, just to keep the peace? Or held back your real feelings because it wasn't the right time? That's the mask in action. But here's the secret. The self you hide might be the self that could save you. The part of you that's messy, angry, jealous, bold. It's also the part that knows freedom, courage, and joy. The question isn't, should I take the mask off? It's what would happen if I did. Not for everyone, not all at once, but maybe, just maybe, for yourself. Because behind the mask is a face that's been waiting to breathe. What part of you have you kept hidden for too long? If you feel safe to share, drop a word or phrase in the comments. And when you're ready, let's meet the place where that mask was first made. We weren't born afraid of ourselves. We learned it. It starts in moments so small we barely notice. A frown when we cry too loud. A scolding when we show too much anger. A laugh when we speak our truth. And in those moments, a message is whispered. Don't be like that. So we tuck parts of ourselves away. That's how the shadow is born. It's not a monster hiding under your bed. It's the parts of you that were once open, expressive, whole, now locked away because someone, somewhere, said they were too much. Maybe it was your sadness that got you labeled dramatic, or your curiosity that earned a "don't ask so many questions." Maybe it was your boldness that made others uncomfortable, Over time, you began to edit yourself, to shrink, filter, polish, and pretend. And that pretending? It feels like protection, until it doesn't. Because here's what they don't tell you. What we suppress, we don't eliminate. We internalize. And those forgotten parts? They become echoes in the background of our lives, shaping choices, relationships, self-worth. That's why you lash out without knowing why. Why you numb out when things get hard. Why joy feels distant and anger feels wrong. It's not because you're broken. It's because your shadow is speaking, and no one ever taught you how to listen. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The shadow is the unconscious, and the first step to meeting it is remembering when you first buried it. Think back. Who did you have to be to feel safe as a child? What emotions did you hide to be loved? Answering those questions isn't easy, but it's where healing begins, because the child you were deserved to be seen, and the adult you are deserves to be whole. If any of this hits home, comment with one word: remember. And when you're ready, we'll explore why society teaches us to fear what makes us human. We live in a world obsessed with the light, smiles over sadness, success over struggle, positivity over pain. Scroll through any feed, and it's clear there's a performance happening, and most of us are playing along. But here's the thing. When a society only celebrates the light, it quietly teaches us to fear the dark. We learn to hide grief, to fake strength, to silence anything that doesn't look like winning. From an early age, we're taught that emotions like anger, envy, despair, they're dangerous, shameful, signs of weakness. So we armor up, smile when we're breaking, achieve to distract, pretend to be okay, and we pay for it in silence. Because no one claps for you when you're grieving. No one posts about your quiet courage. No one celebrates the days you choose to stay, when leaving felt easier. Society loves the light, but growth, real growth, happens in the dark. Seeds don't sprout in sunlight alone. They break open underground. The same is true for us. We're not machines built to produce constant positivity. We're humans, meant to feel, falter, and evolve. But when we fear our darker parts, we disconnect from our wholeness. We see sadness as failure, anger as sin, and fear as weakness. It's not just harmful, it's inhuman. Imagine if we celebrated emotional truth the way we celebrate productivity. If we honored someone's honesty about their fear, their shame, their trauma, as much as we honor their wins. That kind of world would be brave. But until then, it starts with us, with daring to feel what others won't, with giving ourselves permission to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. So ask yourself, what emotion have you been taught to hide? Is it rage that burns beneath your politeness? Is it loneliness masked by humor? Is it sadness swallowed because you have no right to feel this way? Whatever it is, it matters, because light without darkness is flat. But when we reclaim our shadows, we give our story depth. If this resonates, comment with the emotion you've been afraid to feel. And next, let's talk about what happens when we bury too much for too long. You can only bury something for so long before it starts to bury you. The parts of ourselves we hide don't vanish. They wait, in silence, in tension, in patterns we don't even realize we're repeating. You think you're in control, but really, it's the fear you never faced, the sadness you never spoke, the anger you were told to calm down. And slowly, the cost adds up. You say yes when you want to scream no. You laugh in moments you actually want to cry. You sabotage what you love, because deep down, you don't believe you deserve it. Why? Because that's what unacknowledged shadow does. It doesn't disappear, it drives. Not with logic, but with memory, emotion, wounds. You can hear it in the way you criticize yourself. You can feel it in the anxiety that doesn't match the moment. You can see it in the way you pull away when someone gets too close. It's not random. It's the echo of something buried, now begging to be seen. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But you're here, and that means you're ready. Ready to stop pretending. Ready to stop fearing the feelings that made you human. Because what we bury, buries us. But what we face, frees us. Start by noticing the small betrayals. When you say, it's okay, but it isn't. When you force a smile, but your chest tightens. When you swallow the truth to keep the peace. Those aren't little things. They're clues. Clues that your shadow is whispering. Please, remember me. You don't have to unpack it all at once. Just start by listening. Listen without judgment. Feel without fixing. Acknowledge without running. The most radical act you can take is to meet yourself exactly where you are. If you felt this weight, just comment, "I feel it." And in the next part, we'll meet the monster we're all running from and see why it's not a monster at all. What if the monster under your bed was just a part of you trying to be heard? The truth is, the things we fear most about ourselves aren't evil. They're wounded, and they're tired of hiding. When you hear inner darkness, what comes to mind? Anger, jealousy, lust, grief? We label these emotions as bad, sinful even. But they're not wrong. They're raw, and they're real. They are signals, messengers, asking us to pay attention. But most of us never learned how. So we push them away. We numb, distract, pretend. Until one day, those uninvited guests kick the door down. Maybe you explode at someone you love, or spiral into shame after a small mistake, or withdraw completely, afraid of who you might become if you feel too much. But here's the truth. Facing your shadow won't make you cruel. Ignoring it might. Because the shadow that's seen becomes integrated, and the shadow that's suppressed becomes dangerous. Meeting the monster doesn't mean becoming it. It means understanding it. When you sit with your rage, not to act on it, but to feel where it comes from, you find pain. You find boundaries that were crossed. You find a voice that was never heard. When you explore your jealousy, you find longing, insecurity, a story that told you you're not enough. When you confront shame, you find a child inside you who just wanted to be loved. None of that is evil. It's human. And when you give those parts space, they soften. They don't disappear, but they stop screaming. You realize, maybe for the first time, you're not a monster. You're a person, learning to hold all of you. So here's the invitation. Meet your monster. Ask it what it needs. Let it speak. Not to justify harm, but to understand where the hurt began. If you're brave enough, comment, "I'm ready to listen." Next, we'll discover something surprising, that inside your shadow, there's a gift waiting to be unwrapped. It sounds strange, doesn't it? That something we've been taught to fear might actually hold a gift. But the shadow isn't just a vault of shame. It's a well of power. Beneath every dark emotion you've suppressed lies something sacred. Anger can become boundaries. Jealousy can reveal desire. Grief can open the door to love. Fear can become your greatest compass. The emotions we were told to bury are the ones that make us feel most alive. It's not that they're easy or pleasant, but they're real. And real is what connects us to the world, to each other, to ourselves. The shadow contains the energy of all you've rejected, and when you stop rejecting it, that energy returns to you. Your voice gets louder, your art gets braver, your choices get bolder. Your relationships get deeper, you begin to live, not just perform. Think of it like compost. The parts of you you've discarded decay, yes, but they also fertilize. They feed your growth. They make your soil rich. Your shadow is compost, and from it, wild things can grow. Carl Jung believed that the shadow, once integrated, could lead to individuation, the becoming of your fullest self. Not the self that's polished, but the self that's whole. That's where the magic is, in your untamed truths, your unedited voice, your messy, miraculous self. So ask yourself, what power have you been calling a flaw? Is your too much actually your passion? Is your coldness just a boundary no one respected? Is your selfishness actually self-preservation? Your answers are your gifts. You don't need to fix your shadow. You need to invite it in. Let it sit at the table. Let it speak. Let it breathe. Because when you do, you reclaim a part of your soul. If you're beginning to see a part of yourself differently, drop a comment. I see the gift. And in the next chapter, we'll talk about how to turn shame into something even more powerful. Wholeness. Shame is a silence, a heavy fog that wraps around the parts of us we've been told are too much or not enough. It doesn't shout. It whispers. You're broken. No one else feels this way. If they knew, they'd leave. But shame only survives in secrecy. And the moment we speak our truth, its grip begins to loosen. See, most of us think healing means becoming someone else, someone stronger, happier, less messy. But real healing, it's not transformation, it's integration. It's not about becoming better. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness means holding your sadness and your joy in the same breath. It means letting the part of you that wants to hide come into the light, gently. It means forgiving yourself for the things you did when you didn't know how to do better. Shame says, I'm bad because I feel this. Wholeness says, I'm human, and this feeling deserves space. When you stop running from your darkness, you start seeing its humanity. You start seeing yours. That's when the shift happens. You stop asking, how do I fix myself? And start wondering, what part of me needs love right now? That's a revolutionary question, because the world will keep telling you to improve, to optimize, to glow up. But you don't need another glow up. You need a homecoming, a return to the you that existed before the edits, the one who was bold, tender, unfiltered. Wholeness is messy, it's complex, it's sacred, and it begins when you choose compassion over critique. So today, offer it. To the version of you that stayed quiet, that coped the only way they knew, that kept going when it would have been easier to stop. Wholeness isn't a place you arrive at. It's a practice. And every time you choose to feel instead of flee, you're doing the work. If this speaks to you, take a breath and comment, I choose compassion. Next, we'll explore the how, simple steps to begin shadow work, without overwhelm, without fear. Shadow work doesn't start with grand gestures. It begins with a question, a pause, a moment where you choose to stop running and start listening. If the word shadow work sounds intimidating, don't worry. You're not being asked to dive headfirst into pain. You're being invited to meet yourself, one honest step at a time. So how do you begin? Step 1. Notice your triggers. When something makes you unusually angry, jealous, or defensive, pause. Ask, what does this feeling remind me of? Often it's not about the moment. It's about a wound underneath. Step 2. Journal without censoring. Not for Instagram, not for clarity, just to empty the weight. Try prompts like, I feel ashamed when, if I were truly honest, I'd admit. The part of me I'm scared to show is. Step 3. Practice mirror talk. Look yourself in the eyes and say what your younger self needed to hear. Not perfectly, just honestly. Step 4. Stop spiritual bypassing. You don't need to love and light everything. Some things need to be grieved, screamed, felt. You're not failing because you're feeling deeply. Step 5. Seek safe containers. Whether it's a trusted friend, therapist, or support group, healing happens in relationship. Find people who can hold space without trying to fix you. Shadow work is not about fixing. It's about remembering, reclaiming, reintegration. And yes, It's uncomfortable. But discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. You'll cry. You'll resist. You'll want to run. But you'll also feel freer than you've felt in years. Because when you bring what's hidden into the light, shame loses its grip, and you begin to breathe as your full self. No edits, no masks, just truth. So start small. One emotion, one memory, one moment. Let it speak and listen, not to judge, but to understand. If you're ready to begin, comment. Step 1, I'm here. And in the next chapter, I'll show you you're not alone. Real people have faced their shadow and come out shining. You are not alone in this. Every soul you admire, every person who radiates depth, wisdom, or peace, they didn't get there by avoiding their shadow. They met it, and they survived it. Some even found their purpose inside it. Let me tell you about Maya. On the outside, she was thriving. Career, friends, a life that looked perfect. But behind closed doors, she carried a silent storm. Self-hatred, anxiety, shame. One night, it cracked open, not with drama, but with stillness. She looked in the mirror and whispered, "I'm tired of pretending." That night, she began writing letters to her younger self, not to fix her, but to forgive her. 2 years later, she runs a workshop helping others do the same. Then there's Khalid. He used to shut down emotionally, believing men shouldn't cry, shouldn't feel too much. But when his marriage crumbled, so did that belief. In therapy, he faced his suppressed rage, not to unleash it, but to understand it. Underneath, he found grief, vulnerability, tenderness. Today, he mentors young men on emotional intelligence. These are not superheroes. They're people like you, like me, who chose to stay, who chose to listen, who chose to heal. And yes, they still struggle, but they no longer pretend. That's the power of shadow work. It doesn't promise perfection. It offers presence, a chance to show up to your pain, your truth, your life, fully. So if you've ever thought, maybe I'm too far gone, let this be proof. You're not. You're exactly where you need to be, and your story is still unfolding. If someone's shadow story inspired you, or if you're living one of your own, share a sentence in the comments. Your truth might be the torch someone else needs. And now, for the final part of this journey, the courage to be whole. Wholeness isn't a destination. It's a decision. A decision to stop dividing yourself into acceptable and unacceptable, worthy and unworthy. It's the moment you choose to carry all of you forward, not just the polished parts. That takes courage. It's easier to conform, to stay numb, to live in the curated version of you that never shakes, never aches, never makes anyone uncomfortable. But that version, it's not alive. It's a costume stitched from fear, held together by silence. The real you, the whole you, is complex. It cries at midnight and dreams at noon. It doubts and dares. It breaks and rebuilds. And yes, it casts a shadow. But that shadow doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And the moment you accept that, you become unstoppable. Because wholeness is magnetic. It draws people in, not to your perfection, but to your presence. People don't fall in love with your mask. They fall in love with your truth, your weirdness, your wisdom born from wounds. That's what this world needs. Not more light, but more honest light. The kind that's been to the dark and still chooses to shine. So today, make the quiet, radical choice to show up as all of you. The kind, the messy, the fierce, the soft. Wholeness is not something you earn. It's something you remember. And if this video has reminded you of that, I want you to say it. Say it for you. Say it for the version of you that waited years to feel seen. Type it in the comments. I choose wholeness. And if this journey touched you, like the video, subscribe for more stories like this. Share it with someone who needs it, because healing isn't a solo act. It's a revolution, and you just took the first step.